Hi guys, my name's Tom Pickering. I'm really delighted to launch part two of the pub. We call it the private members bar, although it's open currently to all of you that are joining us. I think the focus on this is to get control, open new options to overcome fear and loneliness, which is quite a bold word, but I think it's affecting us all in our own way, as well as uncertainty. But also there's some people on this call who are trying to build businesses back up from scratch. So I think that's another theme of what we're going to talk about. I think where we've had success as a team is creating pioneers in the leadership space. So what we've been trying to do at the pub is to share the challenge, and we've been training very successfully, actually, I'm pleased to say, some pioneering leaders to actually drive this stuff forwards, which is definitely the Winning Thinking panel, but there's quite a large alumni. And these people are very much out there making it happen, influencing teams and growing this capability. So thank you very much for joining us, and thank you very much for joining us in the last 30 pubs. I think from the last 30 pubs, I'd like to just recapture what we learned. I think we've got a very clear idea of what the emerging challenge is. So the big one is actually overcoming pride. So what the new private members bar is all about is admitting to the challenge, okay, and taking new action and developing new skills, which all requires courage, and we acknowledge that. We've also picked up this theme of intimacy as well, really close relationships where we're moving and addressing things with pretty much a blank sheet of paper, which is also the crux of profits. Relationships are also the crux of profits. Localization's been a strong theme, and it remains to be. And there's a real sense of urgency to take new action. But on the flip side of that, we've also talked about the skills to take new action, because there's not a whole lot of action going on. So on top of that, I think as well, I'd just add another thing, which is there are lots of unused tools to address difficult funding challenges which the government have provided, as well as restructuring processes, which are a bit technical and tedious, but 100% untouched and covered in dust at the moment. So the second part, I think, of the pub is, so that's about the challenge. The second part is the skills to actually cope with this. I think we've used the notion of a jazz band really to try and get us away from the tedious subject of leadership development, which is always a subject that bored me stupid ever since I was on the shop floor at Lucas. It bore no resemblance to anything useful, and I think it's become very tarnished. So the jazz band is around encouraging misalignment. So effectively the team are actually steering the ship with very much a blank sheet of paper, intimate relationships, listening to customers and taking immediate action. So that's the crux of the jazz band. And this requires people to be bold and stepping out into the unknown, which we've coined the Lars, going Lars, a bit like Mac, the Big Mac going large. You know, Lars very much talked about that in his last talk. I think the other part of this is also protecting the downside. So a lot of business has been around growing businesses from a platform. Actually, at the moment, we're very much in a situation of protecting the downside to cope financially with the challenge that we're facing. So that's a summary of the last 30 pubs for you. So that saves you listening to all 30, but you're welcome to do so. They're on the website. Moving on from that, the purpose of this pub is, as I said, to overcome pride, to share the challenge and take action, and also admit to needing help. Right, that's another one, which is quite tough. I think the second part of this is then to share success. So people who've got the bravery to step over the edge, admit they need some help, is then to share that success. And so, and shamelessly promote what you're doing, right? So let's do it. Let's not be proud and, not sell or whatever. Whoever comes back to this, as far as I'm concerned, it's your time to share what you've learned and what you've got out of it. Where we're proposing to support is to create a panel of 4 of us, which will take offline out of this group and meet with your key leadership team, and we'll focus on cash return on investment. So unlike a lot of consultants who might advise, we're actually experts at creating cash, as well as dealing with difficult issues. So we're not afraid of addressing some of the difficult issues. I think that the pub panel also will be the people on this call, which is Tom Tom, David, the two Davids, David and David McLean from a psychology perspective. So got real level of horsepower. The second part of the pub is also to check leadership skills. Okay, so that's the first part is around overcoming pride, sharing the challenge, and then sharing your testimony of the solution. The second part is then sharing your leaderships or checking our leadership skills. And we've got a test which is on the Winning Thinking website, which is called the CEO EQ test. What we'd like you to do is consider those two case studies and just share those in this forum this next time round, so that as a group we can highlight some of the challenges and how that reflects actually within your own business, to highlight some of the gaps and the roadblocks to address that. And from that we can upskill. And the whole focus is really for you to drive this yourself, if at all possible. The other part of this is also investment, right? So we're also gearing this up in terms of commitment. We're expecting people who do this actually to invest, and we've figured out what we think is an appropriate solution, but we welcome your steer, which is for the panel session, which we're going to get some real results for you, which is to scope the opportunity and actually start achieving some of those results. We're going to deliver that for $2,500. If you can't afford that, then I don't mind having a discussion with you about that, because we can talk about some upsides and other ways of doing that. But very much we're looking for your commitment in terms of addressing that. And in terms of training leaderships, which we're leadership teams and leadership team members, that's £1,200 per person as well. But that's the sort of level of commitment. But the results really are quite dramatic. And if you look back, we can share lots of testimonies around that. So what this actually means is that we're moving into a stage where we're facing the issues, right? And I mean facing the issues, opening the options and taking action. And what that does is it gets us back into control, rather than this whole thing around waiting for the government and what have you. So just to summarize that, the weekly agenda of the pub moving forwards, and this is more of an introductory thing at the moment, as you probably gathered, is to share success, shamelessly, for people who've actually taken new action and been through the panel and got some results. The second thing is to share your challenges, and then to check your leadership skills and/or to develop your leadership skills. And this is all about taking new action. And the check really is, actually the commitment. So we are expecting people to financially commit to this, but we are fully committed to this as well. So and I think that in terms of the members side of this pub, we're expecting people to contribute. Okay, so everybody on this call contributes something, and I include myself in the panel in this as well. So what does that contribution look like? It means inviting other people to the panel. It might be inviting other people to join who may be in the similar situation as yourself. But it's very much taking new action, sharing new action, asking questions on this call. Really, rather than just sitting and observing, this is all about taking new action. So I think the other aspect of this is when we're sharing the challenges, don't give away any confidential information. Just give away the information you're comfortable in terms of the top level challenge you're facing. The expectation is that will not be, well, it's just not confidential, and we'll take any discussions, confidential information outside. So, so just on that point, we're going to just test our Zoom skills here. So I know I've spoken to a couple of people who actually have got a challenge they'd like to share. If you could raise your hand, I think there's a Q&A thing on this. I'll try and invite you to talk. So let's just test the technology. So I think who would like to contribute a challenge? I think Rubina, I'm going to invite you to talk, Rubina. I know I spoke to you before. Are you there? We've gone. It's dropped. Oh, there we are. Yeah. So can I invite you, Rubina, to just share your challenge, if that's okay?
Hi. Yeah. Hi.
Welcome. Fantastic.
Thank you. I'm very honoured to be here, honestly. Yeah, my challenge is managing people. The age-old problem, I suppose, in truth, for most people, and managing personalities, even though you've given them your vision and trying to upskill them by giving them personal mentorship training and addressing problems immediately as they come along. I still find managing people a huge challenge in that regard. So yeah, maybe some thoughts of a different alternative. Instead of managing, maybe we could change the inference and the way it's done. I'm happy to hear other suggestions for that. And then business growth, because I'm a new business, started in February of this year, had to change it by April of this year because of COVID. And now 4 people I've taken on to work with me. So I'm all about evolutionary changes, nothing set in stone, principles, of course, but then everything else I'm happy to work my way around. So those at the moment are some of my biggest challenges.
Thank you very much. I think, yeah, I love what you're trying to do, Rubina, in terms of starting a business from scratch, but really trying to do it properly. So well done. That's great. Good job. I don't know if David McLean, if you've got any comments in terms of that that challenge.
Thank you. Hi, Rubina.
Hi.
Yes. So my background is psychology, psychotherapy. So I understand personalities and personality types, and there's a lot of different ones, and all. We go in business, we do many different things with personalities. You know, you go on these tests, so I'm red, I'm orange, I'm this, whatever it may well be. And they can be helpful to an extent, but actually there's seems like a sales pitch here, but there's a program that's run through what Tom and I do and understands specifically personality types, but it comes from a more evolutionary point of view. An understanding of and categorizing people, which works in a lot of ways, but might not work in some ways, but categorizing people in sort of 3 groups and basically coming out with the key personality types of these kind of people. And you can sort of see it quite easily within different people that have got certain traits. For example, one person, very much my kind of personality type, the same as Tom actually, because we're quite similar. We might like directness. We might like, and when we like direct, we like this, we like to know who it is. Financial people are like that, military people, accountants, they like that kind of directness, like kind of obviousness. But also you'll have other people in your business who are the exact opposite from that, and they actually shun away from that kind of direct confrontation. And it's not that either one is right or wrong, it's just about understanding how someone ticks and understanding that. And we can all go in training programs and programs, can't we? And training skills until they come out our ears, if you like. But learning the kind of the basics in terms of that and personality thing, it allows you to be able to see, right, how should I approach this, or why is he or she speaking to me like this? Because often they don't know, they're not really consciously aware of it. So yeah, understanding personality types from a psychological point of view, not perhaps Myers-Briggs, but if most people know what that is, but from a traditional psychological point of view, gives you a much broader understanding to be able to put people in boxes, I suppose, if you like, and to be able to see why they're reacting and how to get the best out of them. So yeah, hopefully that's helpful.
Thanks, David. Yeah. So thank you, Rubina, very much. That's great. We'll come back to you. That's okay. We'll follow up after this call and make a time. What I suggest, if you could come back, drop me an email, Rubina, between now and then. Let's get some results before next week, okay? So you can come back and share what you've achieved. So
great. Yeah.
This isn't a rehearsal. Let's make it happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah, although the jazz bands probably do rehearsals, but that's not.
Can I add a little something to that, Tom?
So, yeah, go on, David. Yeah.
Rubina, you mentioned 2 points there. The managing people thing, I think, dealt with very eloquently by David. I'll add the other David perspective. When you set up a business, you've done, obviously, you would have put plans together, you'd have put a pattern of some sort of schedule of what we're going to achieve and by when, and then suddenly everything changed. Now, growth is still possible, but the whole point of being adaptable and being able to change the commercial opportunity is vital. So one of the things that we've been discussing in the panel is, this is where the jazz band comes in. If you start off with a plan with various covenants saying here's what we're going to achieve and by when, all those kind of possibilities are almost unachievable right now. But the jazz band says, well, actually, let's understand how we now need to change and move these things around to take advantage of growth. Because even though a lot of expenditure has stopped, a lot of it has started in other places. It's just a question of finding those other places and being able to have a very adaptable model to try to find those other opportunities.
Yeah,
and that's what we could probably discuss in a bit more detail.
yeah,
Yeah, well, I think also that I had, as I said originally, when I started the business in February, I was in the medical field, which is where I come from for 30 years as a trade. And I had to change it, everything, the CRM, the people I was trying to outreach to, all over to veterinary medicine. So the whole process within the last 9 months has been upended and totally transformed, and so, yeah, again, it's a work in progress. I understand markets are great in some places, but obviously, trying to build something, I need to be now a little bit more consistent.
yeah, great. So who else? Thank you very much, Robina. Who else would like to contribute? What about you, Nick, or Paul? Or there's 2 Pauls on the call. David, how are you getting on, David Lunn? Anybody?
Well, I might want to drop in something, Tom. Robina, first of all, thanks for joining the call. Very brave to bring up your personal problem here, and so this is by now. But what we have learned over the last few weeks in the various training sessions and panel discussions is that language really matters. And there are certain mantras that people take for granted, and that drives basically their own behavior as well as the behavior of people around them. So for instance, if the problem is, I struggle to manage my people, maybe it starts also with the word manage. Maybe it's no longer a matter of managing a group and try to have them perform a certain set of tasks, but actually, work different with them and work with them and let them define themselves what the next steps and the next tasks that have to be completed will be, and just try to set up that relationship in a new contemporary fashion rather than in the traditional directive fashion, if you like. I don't say that you're doing that at all. It's just being aware of language and mantras that might float around in your organization or in your head, and I think managing people could be one of those.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the Winning Thinking program pulls all this stuff together, so that's an option. Would anybody else like to stick their hand up and say anything? I think there's an option. I think there should be a sort of hand up thing, or is everybody shy? Make no mistake, guys, what we're expecting next week is people to contribute. So if you're not going to contribute to either raising a challenge or contribute to the case studies and sharing your experience of the case studies, which is on the Winning Thinking CO EQ, then we are expecting people to bring that as a minimum. So so the agenda for next week is we'll follow up with Robina. Robina will share her success that she's had on that. The expectation is for everybody on the call next week is to share their challenges and also to comment on the 2 case studies, so that we are checking in leadership skills and taking new action, and as well as all of us finding new people so if it doesn't necessarily affect us, then challenge yourself. That's always the first port of call in terms of change. It always starts with us. But if there's anybody else you would like to bring onto the call to share their challenges or share experience of leadership skills, then this is the place to be. But certainly we're moving out of the sitting and listening phase into taking action, and that includes all of us, including my peers on the panel as well. So that's where we're going, guys. Please come prepared next week for that. I don't think there's any other questions or anything that anybody else would like to ask in terms of how we're going to use the pub moving forwards. Anything else anybody would like to ask? Any questions? Great. Okay. Well, let's kick off next week. And if you bring along another as many challenges as you've got, one per person, and let's comment on the 2 case studies. Let's share those experiences and learn from that then, guys. So thanks very much for joining us. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Cheers.